Hello, gathered friends. I'm Nuva, and welcome back to another Bionicle Deep Dive, where we analyze the tropes, characters, and lore of LEGO Bionicle. In this video, I wanted to talk about Dark Mirror, the serialized 2008 side story, and why I think it's so important to the themes of Bionicle, particularly morality and the Toa's Code. Let's dive right into it. The heroes of Bionicle, the Toa, operated under a code of honor to ensure that they would always keep the trust of the Matoran people. They were gifted by Matsunui with great power, and it was understood that they had a duty to use it responsibly. The Toa were meant to be more than just warriors, they were heroes, and they kept themselves accountable to ensure they lived up to their noble ideals. The code discouraged things like lying and stealing, but above all, their code forbade them from killing, except in the most dire necessary circumstances. The Toa had immense combat power, and they were expected to show mercy and restraint whenever they could. Toa who murdered their enemies were shunned and even stripped the title of Toa, so we see how seriously they take their morals. Multiple times throughout the story, there was a repeated interaction where characters would be faced with a hard moral dilemma, and one character would remark something along the lines of, "Toa wouldn't do that," to which the other would respond, "Well, maybe that's why there aren't many Toa left." And the message was clear. The Toa's insistence on sticking to their morals was putting them at a disadvantage and getting them killed. Maybe more Toa would be around, and maybe they'd be winning more if they were willing to be more ruthless and cross lines. The Toa claimed they don't want to stoop to the level of their enemies and become the very threat they're supposed to fight, but in the face of defeat, is that just meaningless moralizing? Is the story telling us that sticking to morals in a crisis is wrong? This is where Dark Mirror enters the picture. Dark Mirror presents us with a story that explores just that. What would it be like if the Toa abandoned their code? Dark Mirror was one of the several serialized storylines on Bionicle.com, where in this story, Takanuva, in his journeys through the multiverse, finds himself in an alternate history, where the Toa have forsaken their morals and become tyrannical rulers. They managed to crush the Brotherhood of Makuta and the Dark Hunters, and establish their own version of peace. Now, this timeline came to be when Toa Tuyet won her battle against Lekon, the one that she lost in the main reality, and used an artifact called the Nui Stone to increase her powers and create a new Toa Empire. Under her rule, the Toa used whatever methods, no matter how brutal, to ensure their peace and stability. And it was awful. In terms of how evil and oppressive it was, Tuyet's Toa Empire is indistinguishable from Makuta's Reign of Shadows. The heroes winning like this is literally indistinguishable from the villain winning. The Matoran live in fear of their heroes, and they work constantly. Any suggestion of disagreement towards the regime is punished severely, and active resistance is a death sentence. And now it's to the point where, even though they were winning, they lost everything they were actually fighting for. What adds to this is that the whole time Takanuva is there, he's been partially drained by a Shadow Leech, and his new shadow powers come with the dark side. His own grip on morality is slipping internally. He's having an internal war on whether or not to keep doing what's right, and now he's thrust into a world where Toa abandoned their morals completely of their own choice. No mind-altering infection needed. It shakes him to his core to see the Toa Mata, the paragons of virtue that he bases his own moral strength on, behave so cruelly. It makes him question just how long he can hold on to his morals, given that he's actively slipping to the dark side against his own will. And what's interesting is that the story gives us this, and still doesn't make it completely clear-cut where the line is. They show us where the end of the road of abandoning morals is, but also still acknowledges that sometimes bending the rules is necessary. In the main universe, the Toa do end up bending their code of honor throughout the rest of the story, and they bend it because they really don't have much choice. If they lose everything. But we see it continuing to weigh on them how close they skirt the line. But as both the story itself and the characters seem to question whether it's worth it to keep holding back for the sake of what's right, we get Dark Mirror, and a clear and terrifying picture of what lies at the end of the road when you start abandoning morality. In a story that on the surface has a very black and white moral system, this shows a much deeper, grayer, more nuanced morality in the story. Because while there is right and there is wrong, it's hard to say exactly where the line is. Being a hero is about finding the balance between winning and doing what's right. And again, while Bionicle does have a fairly black and white morality with heroes on one side and villains on the other, it is very notable that the heroes more often struggle with doing what's right than the villains seem to struggle with doing the wrong thing. The heroes are usually more corruptible than the villains are redeemable. And this seems to be consistent with some comments Greg Farshey has made about his views on heroes and villains, which is that it's a lot easier to do what's wrong than to keep on doing what's right. This view on morality is actually very similar to Star Wars, such as when Yoda commented that the essence of the dark side is that it's quicker, easier, more seductive. And in the end, the Toa have to make the hard choice to keep doing what's right and do it in the right way, sticking to their morals and recognizing that they'll have to fight even harder because of that choice, which, in my view, is a truly inspiring way to tell a story about heroes, because I think it's very relevant to real life. It's hard to make positive changes while also doing the right thing, but it's also very important, both on the personal and societal level, to make changes in a way that will produce sustainable good, not just momentary victory. That's my take on the significance between Dark Mirror and the Toa Code. A large part of this video was inspired by one made by Taraga Nuva, the compiler of the Biological Chronicle PDF books that compile the entire Bionicle story. In their video, they talk about how Takanuva's journey after becoming a Toa deconstructs the black and white morality of Bionicle, and how Dark Mirror, along with the other alternate universe stories, are lessons on moral ambiguity. Definitely check her video out, it's really good, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. But so tell me, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on the Toa Code and how strictly they should stick to it? And what do these things say about Bionicle's message on morals? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care, my gathered friends.